tend to really love the Simpsons Christmas episodes, and thankfully, I Won't Be Home for Christmas is a really good one. This is the 9th episode of the 26th season of The Simpsons. It's directed by Kirkland, and driving home after work on Christmas Eve, Homer actually crashes into some snow, which just so happens to be outside of Moe's. So he goes into Moe's, and Moe kind of tricks Homer into staying there for way longer. Basically, he turns the clock back, so Homer doesn't realise it's as late as it is. And when he gets home, Marge is understandably furious, but she doesn't give him any time to explain. And she casts him out on Christmas Eve. And the time frame of what happens next is a little bit unrealistic, because Homer then wanders the streets, mostly spending time at the mall, and bearing in mind it's almost Christmas Day at this point, the shops definitely wouldn't be just shutting up at that time. So you need to suspend disbelief a little bit, because it's quite unrealistic. But the actual messages are really beautiful. And the main message is that you shouldn't just assume the worst of people, even people who generally mess up, as is the case with Homer, because we, the viewer, know that actually he was just staying for a drink with Moe because Moe was on his own. In fairness, the real thing he should have done was check with Marge, and then if Marge thought it was fine, invite Moe back for Christmas. But he went almost as good as that and spent time with Moe. And Moe took advantage. And this entire thing was Moe's fault, but obviously Marge is used to Homer screwing up. I guess you could say there's also a lesson there that you shouldn't screw up that much, because if you constantly screw up, then when something happens that isn't your fault, people are going to assume the worst of you. Who's the person who's in the wrong there? The person who always makes bad judgments and screws up, or the people who are judging them and assuming they've screwed up again? I genuinely don't know which person's worse. But I think it was really emotional. It's not the most jolly or uplifting episode, but we do have a lot of acts of kindness. Many, many kind acts. And there's a beautiful moment, and I won't explain it in any detail, but there's a beautiful moment between Homer and Flanders, and Edna gets a mention as well. Not in any detail, no mention of actually what happened to her, but I think this is the first time Edna's had a mention since we saw her photo on the side table, which was a little bit emotional. Also made me wonder who's looking after Rod and Todd at this time of night. But again, you need to kind of suspend disbelief. But if you can do that, I think you'll find it to be a really moving episode. It is quite festive. There are some Christmas songs, some Christmas music, a lot of lights, a lot of festive lights. It's very snowy. The characters are wearing, they're wrapped up warm in their winter clothing. So it definitely has a lot of Christmas vibes to it. But it's very sentimental, very moving, very, very well done. And I sided with Homer straight away, which, to be fair, in Homer's defense and everything I've said, when it started and Homer was getting ready to leave work, he's on the phone to Marge saying he's just going to lock up, then he'll come home. I was genuinely thinking, no, he's not. He's lying. He's going to come up with some big delay for why he can't be home that quickly and go to Moe's. But that's not what happened. But I guess that's Marge's position as well. She also expected the worst from Homer, so that's what she assumed. But I genuinely did. I didn't know what it was about when I started watching it, but we see Homer saying he's going to lock up and stuff, and I thought, oh yeah, he's going to say, it's going to take me ages to lock up, I need to do all of these things before the holidays, and he's going to sneak off to Moe's. But that's not exactly what happened. And I mean, yeah, I kind of feel bad for assuming the worst of him, but again, as the argument goes, when that's all he ever does, whose fault is it for thinking that? It's an interesting point and an interesting discussion to have, I think. But as an episode, it's beautifully done. Really engaging, very entertaining for the right reasons, very moving, and quite festive as well. Definitely a pretty powerful Christmas-based Simpsons episode.